Hey everyone, welcome to this explainer. Look, even the most seasoned writers out there know that absolute feeling of dread. You know the one, staring at a totally blank screen, just agonizing over how to organize a chaotic brainstorm into a coherent argument without bombing the assignment. Well, today we are going to treat your essay structure exactly like architecture. An essay's main body is this massive structure that requires the exact right blueprint to actually build effectively. Without a solid, deliberately engineered essay structure, even your most brilliant arguments are just going to collapse under their own weight. So let's open up the academic toolbox and architect your writing. Okay, let's take a quick look at today's agenda. 1. The essay blueprint. 2. Time and comparison. 3. Themes and phases. And 4. The adversarial approach and choosing your structure. All right, section 1, the essay blueprint, laying the foundation. Before we even think about selecting a specific blueprint, we really need to understand the fundamental math of a standard essay. 80 to 90%. That is a massive chunk, right? That's the portion of your total word count dedicated solely to the main body of your paper. While your introductions and conclusions are obviously super important, the vast majority of your heavy lifting is done right here in the middle. It's a series of paragraphs arranged into a really meaningful order. Simply put, if you don't have a deliberate, engineered essay structure for this 80 to 90%, well, you just don't have an essay. Now, top institutions definitely recognize how critical this is. The Harvard College Writing Center outlines these essential strategies for essay writing. They talk about mastering your thesis, crafting introductions, using seamless transitions, anticipating those counterarguments, and nailing the conclusions. But while all of those elements act as these crucial little gears in the machine, our laser focus for today is on mastering the anatomy of a body paragraph and exactly how those paragraphs stack together to form the core of your essay structure. To really master this, we're pulling a fantastic breakdown straight from the University of Kent's Student Learning Advisory Service. They offer 5 specific, highly effective frameworks for building your essay structure. I want you to think of these as 5 distinct architectural blueprints, ready to just grab and deploy, depending on exactly what kind of building you've been hired to construct. Moving right along to Section 2, Time and Comparison, Chronological and Comparative Structures. Right, so first out of the toolbox is the chronological structure. This one is incredibly intuitive. It basically organizes your facts exactly as they occurred in time. You start right at the spark of an event, and you literally walk the reader step by step through to the very end. You'd typically deploy this historical essay structure to tackle a time-spanning prompt, something like, have attitudes to crime and punishment changed since the 19th century? For a question like that, walking through the timeline era by era makes complete logical sense to show evolution. You're building your paragraphs around specific time periods, actively demonstrating how the whole topic transformed. But, and this is a big but, you have to beware the chronological trap. While it's wonderfully straightforward, super easy to follow, and just feels natural to write, you risk simply regurgitating a timeline. You might actually fall into just describing what happened instead of analytically proving why it happened. And remember, at the university level, your professors do not want a timeline, they absolutely want an analysis. Okay, next up we have the comparative structure. This completely shifts your essay structure into a scale, weighing 2 or more distinct concepts against each other. So instead of moving linearly through time, you're taking subjects, putting them side by side, and examining their similarities and differences to draw a much deeper conclusion. If you apply this comparative structure to that exact same crime and punishment prompt we just talked about, instead of walking decade by decade, you might weigh 19th century attitudes directly against 21st century attitudes. It yields this beautifully balanced, thought-provoking, and highly analytical essay. The main risk here, polarization. You might artificially overstate contrasts or completely ignore the subtle nuances just to make your points fit neatly onto either side of the scale. All right, Section 3, Themes and Phases, Thematic and Phase Structures. Pivoting away from timelines and direct comparisons, we have the thematic structure, which is just highly analytical. It basically allows you to slice a really massive topic into different aspects, themes or theoretical models, and then discuss them separately. You are essentially organizing your essay structure by breaking a huge, complex puzzle into manageable, categorical pieces. This is honestly the absolute perfect blueprint for an immense, multifaceted question like, what caused the Great Depression of 1929? A chronological approach here might get hopelessly bogged down in a day-by-day timeline of the stock market crash. But a thematic structure lets you dedicate one specific section to economic policies, another entirely to agricultural struggles, and yet another to international trade. While it powerfully highlights key theories, the primary danger here is building a totally disjointed essay. Think about it. If you put economic policy in one paragraph and agriculture in another without ever showing how they actually interact, your essay ends up reading like three separate mini-papers just stapled together. You have got to weave those themes together to make it one cohesive argument. Alternatively, we've got the phased structure, which is a brilliant little hybrid tool. It divides a topic into its short, medium, and long-term implications or causes. It's kind of a mix of chronology and thematic sorting, focusing specifically on the ripple effects of an issue over time.
You definitely want to deploy this phased essay structure when you're facing a forward-looking prompt. For example, what challenges does climate change pose for wildlife conservation? You strategically map out the immediate short-term threats facing animals today, then the medium-term habitat shifts, and finally the long-term existential risks.
This one is fantastic for digesting incredibly complicated information into simple priorities, showing the reader you can project an issue forward logically. However, you've got to monitor your writing carefully, ensure your points don't become overly repetitive across the phases. You definitely don't want to just say the exact same thing 3 times using slightly more urgent vocabulary just to hit a word count.
And finally, Section 4, the adversarial approach and choosing your structure.
Our last tool is the adversarial approach. This one is fundamentally about making a definitive, well-reasoned case either for or against a specific proposition. You aren't just explaining a timeline or categorizing themes here. You are literally stepping into a debate ring, acknowledging the opposing side and logically dismantling it while building up your own stance. This framework is just tailor-made for heavy, subjective debate prompts like, should the law enforce morality? You can't just list historical facts for a question like this. You really have to take a hard stand and defend it vigorously. Now, this essay structure forces a robust, thorough discussion of both sides, proving to your grader that you aren't afraid of opposing viewpoints. But the obvious trap? Bias. If you let your personal feelings completely dominate the argument and fail to give the other side a fair hearing, well, your academic credibility instantly tanks. So any of these 5 blueprints, chronological, comparative, thematic, phased, or adversarial, can technically work. The goal is to put the power in your own hands. Whenever you get an assignment, just ask yourself 3 things to master your essay structure. First, what does the question implicitly suggest? Second, which of these structures could technically work? And third, ultimately, which essay structure makes the absolute best logical sense for the specific argument you are trying to make? Because your essay structure really shouldn't just be some accident that happens while you're frantically typing. It needs to be a deliberate, strategic choice that elevates your entire argument. So here's my challenge to you. Take a look at your syllabus right now. Think about it. What structure makes the best sense for your very next prompt? Choose your blueprint and start building. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and happy writing.